Thank you very much. Today, it is wonderful time for you all. Wonderful time for you all. Because we invite both most venerable. The first one in the morning session will be Bhante Chao from America. Actually, most venerable come from Sri Lanka. But I'm so surprised when I first saw most venerable at Chinese Taipei. He explained Buddha teaching in Chinese very well. And whatever he know, he explained more effectively, and people very happy about that. And one day I'm so lucky because I have a chance to work with Bhante Chao in our organization we call International Association of Buddhist University and International Council for the Day of Wisdom. That is the time I learned with Bhante Chao. The second most venerable, as you know, when he explains something, when he tries to lead the meeting, every people have to listen to most venerable. He sound, he have self-confidence. That most venerable is most venerable Dr. T. Thammaratana from France. He is the vice president of International Council for the Day of Wisdom. I would like you all learn from their life, the way they come from the past. What about the present? I told you many times, designing your life, build a life you love. Both most venerable try best to design their life. At first, they are so young. They try best to go to America, try best to go to study in France, and finish doctors in there. So that is the thing I learned from both venerable for 10 years ago. That's why I would like you all know about this as well. But as you know, now, digital world or digital era, how can we spread our Buddhism, our Buddha teaching to those who live in America and European countries? It's not easy to let them all understand more about Buddha teaching because different Buddha teaching, different culture, different robe. How can both most venerable explain Buddha teaching to people who lives in there? We call Buddhism in Western, Buddhism in the West, Buddhism in the West. How can they explain and establish Buddha institutions in there? I would like you all ask most venerable and learn from them all. In the morning session, we invite Bhante Chao to give talk on Buddhism in America. And afternoon session, we will invite most venerable Dr. T. Thammaratana will give talk on Buddhism in European country. Please take more time to learn, understand deeply about it. I'm not quite sure. Who knows? One day you might be there. One day you all might be there and work with most venerable. One day you might go to America, European country. Who knows about it? Because many people around the world need your help. They all need your all to let them have more inspiration. So please take more time and learn from most venerable. Ask just good question as well as you can. I would like to thank Most Venerable T. Tamratana and Venerable Chao who take more time to be here, and please kindly inspire all students. Inspire them all. Let them learn from your experiences like me too. And thank you very much. And please, Bhante, give just a big hand to both Most Venerable today and invite Bhante Chao to be here, please. Please, sit here, Bhante.
Good morning, everybody. Most Venerable Mahasangha and Most Venerable Hangsa described we as experts on this and that, but we are still studying, learning, and on this journey together. So, I am going to talk without further delay because we only have about 1.5 hours or less to talk on this morning. And also I would like to have some time for you to ask questions where if it is not clear what I am saying, or if you have something related to that what I am talking about. Please remember that don't ask something that out of the topic or something not related to what we are going to talk today, because of the time limitation and also unnecessary interruption. So, with all that in mind, what I would like to say start is that well, Buddhism is an American religion today. When we think about United States, that Buddhism is, we can say, even though some people say it's the third religion in the United States, but when we go through the numbers, we can see that Buddhism should be the number 2 actually. Because there are so many Buddhists that in the United States they don't want to call them as or name them as Buddhists, or they want to be a member of a Buddhist center. Those people are more than what the people who go to temples. So we call them actually nightstand Buddhists. Nightstand Buddhist means that they quietly read their books in their rooms, and at home sometimes most of them do have meditation rooms or a place for meditation, and then sometimes they do have a little altar for chanting. So they are very quietly practicing this Buddhist teaching. And I've been traveling in the United States to many parts all over, even to Canada, and then there are large temples, but there are very small number of large temples when we talk about, but there are more small Buddhist centers we call meditation centers or so, and other things that we can see around. And then another category that I put is called like cafeteria Buddhists. Cafeteria Buddhist means they, like sometimes they say, oh, I am belongs to this Buddhist group and I am belongs to that Buddhist group, or I am practicing Zen, I am practicing Vipassana, I am going to something else, and all kind of people time to time I meet. And then they come back again to different things and learning, practicing different things. So it's kind of shopping around this, but still they call themselves as practicing Buddhism or studying Buddhism. So when we include all kind of these people, there are over 30 million or more altogether. Traditional Buddhists, like we call Asian immigrants, or converted Buddhists to the locally converted Americans, and also these people who are floating around or practicing by themselves. So there are millions of Buddhists in the United States, but there are no numbers, because Buddhists are different in the world, because we don't have a leadership to count every Buddhist or get all the numbers like in the Catholic Church or some other churches. And then there is another difference, many other differences. So let's start a little bit on this. Okay, Buddhism arrived in the United States. There's another difference that we can see, that Buddhism in many Asian countries or some other countries, the Buddhist missions went from country to country. Mostly the monastics, monks, traveled from India to China, or India to Sri Lanka, or India to some other places. But in the United States, there is a big difference. In the United States, the writers, the scholars started. Scholars mean, I will tell you later who they are. And also the next group is the Asian immigrants. Asian immigrants came as refugees or the workers or whatever, and then they settled, and also wars in Asia, the refugees, and also the social unrest, like what happened like in China. In China, the communists take over, and that time in 1940s, 50s, and then some monastics or the people left the country and then immigrated to the United States. And also the business people. Business people also, time to time, they have enough money to support the center, so they build a place and also invite monks to, or the monks or the nuns to come to the United States and take care of those temples. So there are some other categories we can put together, but in general, these are the groups. Now going back to little history, that you can see the Chinese immigrants to the United States, they are the first people came as Buddhist or cultural Buddhists. They brought their tradition, because the Chinese came in 1800s to work in railroads, especially from southern China. They came to work on railroads in the United States. And then they brought their culture. And then the Westerners, and then the Westerners, when we talk about, I'm going to give you the names later. And then the publications came after the lecture. So this is very interesting, that in 1884, Edward Salisbury presented a paper in this American Oriental Society conference. Sometimes people call them as theosophical societies or whatever. At that time, they did not have Buddhist centers or Buddhist societies or anything. And so he's in the Yale University. He presented this paper in the Yale University. And then many scholars inspired by his speech and the paper. After that, this is also a very significant thing. Most probably you know all this information, but also I'm going to bring you and summarize this. Like Colonel Olcott is one of the persons that inspired by his speech. And then he went to Sri Lanka. Today we have the Buddhist flag. Today we have the Buddhist flag because of him. We Buddhists did not have a Buddhist flag, so we have to respect these Americans that at least created the Buddhist flag for all the Buddhists in the world. And also he introduced the Sunday schools in Sri Lanka. Sunday schools encourage Buddhist monastics, monks, the leaders to start Sunday schools. And then another person also that in that conference, he started publishing papers, publication company. So that's how they started this journey on Buddhism in the United States. And in 1853, the first Buddhist temple, or we don't want to call it a Buddhist temple, is a mixed kind of a Chinese temple with all kind of deities and gods. You know, Chinese temples are not particularly talking about only the Buddha statue, but they have many other statues and all those worships and practices together, so that they have a temple in San Francisco, because where there were the people who settled from China, for those railroad workers at that time. And also during the gold rush, they call it gold rush. So that's the Chinese went to San Francisco and settled there. And then in 1893, World Parliament of Religion in Chicago is another significant event. That was a place that living religious masters, all kind of religions, the masters, the teachers, the leaders got together in the United States in 1893. And in this significant event, there were two persons. One from Sri Lanka called Anagarika Dharmapala. He became a monk later. The Venerable Dharmapala, and also another Japanese monk. Japanese monk, if I talk about Zen. And these two people, Shokuen, and so these two, after the conference, they started traveling, because many people have invited them to stay longer. So then they started traveling in the United States, and then they starting small centers. Then they started Zen centers, and then some Dharma discussion groups in the United States. So the Japanese Buddhists also started their own centers, even without priests at that time. And then what happened, many Americans came to Japan to learn more about Zen. So that this Japanese Zen master here, Shaku Zoen, and the Sri Lankan monk in the Venerable Dharmapala. Then the Japanese are again very significant, that then they started the Pure Land School, the centers. Actually, there is one temple in Los Angeles today that's built in 1890 or 1895 or something. That's 125 years ago. They built a temple in Los Angeles. The temple is still there. Today what we call the Buddhist Churches of America, and all over the United States they have centers. So this is another significant group. And in 1950s and 60s, now this is what we call second period. I've talked about the first period, that is early history a little bit. Now we are going to hear the 1950s and 60s. There's the Buddhist teachers immigrated to the US and Canada due to the wars, like Korean War, Vietnam War, and some other social unrest in Asian countries. Like the Zen Center of Los Angeles. Zen is a very old place that still is a very small place with few houses, but they have been doing a lot of work with the local community and teaching thousands of people for the last 50 years or 70 years. And then the San Francisco Center, and also a lot of young people again got interested. When I say young, I mean sometimes middle-aged people too, They came for wars or traveling and listening and came to Asia. So they also learned more about Buddhism and Buddhist culture here. So they were interested. This is how all these things started. It's not because some missionary monks went there and had some temples and this and that. They started with small houses, small places. And then, as I said before, the Korean War, Vietnam War, Asian culture, and then 1940s, Chinese, the communists take over, and then there's the Civil War, and then 59, Chinese takeover of Tibet. That's another significant area to talk about and then to mark that because of the Tibet, this in the Vajrayana tradition went to Western countries. Especially when I talk about this 1959, the impact of Dalai Lama is significant today. I know some people don't want to talk about Dalai Lama, but as a spiritual leader, we have to talk about when it comes to Buddhism, because when he visited, for example, United States, he is the only Buddhist spiritual leader invited by the President of the United States to the White House to sit and then talk. And also he's the only person that the media cover all over, wherever he goes, wherever he gives lectures. It always in the media, and the major news channels or the newspapers publish that. And also when he comes to Los Angeles, for example, or anywhere, then we have to book a stadium with 5,000, 8,000, 10,000 people. So in universities and the auditoriums, not in the small temples. So the attraction or whatever the reason is that he built, and also a lot of movie stars started following him, because that has also helped us to, we live in the United States, that helped us to continue his mission, whatever the teaching that he talked about. So we work together. I remember like at UCLA, when he was doing before he's doing the lecture, then I started the opening prayer, and then a couple of other places like that. So it doesn't matter wherever he comes, he invites Theravada, Mahayana, all kind of monks to all the people to come together and then have this. And that is also very important to remember, that how we started, and when we talk about history, we cannot exclude it. And then another significant person is Thich Nhat Hanh. Even though he lived in France, he comes to the United States, and then he started talking about the retreats, the meditation, and then simple life, and also published a lot of books. His books were everywhere in bookstores and then university bookstores, and many people started reading, like they started carrying when they travel his books, just like poems and reading for that. So all these are very important for us to teach Buddhism and when we talk about the history. Now, before I go further, can I ask you a question? When we talk about all these Buddhist schools went from China, or when I say Buddhist schools means traditions from Japan or China, Asia, and all these countries for the last 100 years that I've been talking, what do you think? Where we have most of the Buddhist schools? Almost every Buddhist school exists in a couple of places today. What do you think? Do you think that in Taiwan or in Thailand or in Japan or where? All those Buddhist schools, when we talk about SGI, Nichiren Shoshu, Pure Land, Jodo Shu, all these Japanese sects, and also, all kind of things. In the Tibetan, they have this Karmapa, Nyingmapa, and all kind of schools. Anyone want to give me the answer? Taiwan. What else? Where else? That is Los Angeles. That is in Los Angeles, United States. We do have over 80 or more different kind of schools. Almost like Korean, Chogye order, Won Buddhism, and all kind of schools. And then Japanese schools. And then there are other countries from, all these, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, you name it, that we have it. And Japanese schools, almost like 23 or 20 some Japanese sects. Chinese, they call Pure Land, they call Zen, this and that and that and that. That's Los Angeles. Because there are many Asians, almost from Los Angeles, we do have people from all over the world. So they bring their culture. So today, when we talk about like another joke, I always do that. It's not difficult to find a Chinese restaurant in a U.S. city. Like even if you go to a small city, you find a Chinese restaurant. But it is also true that you find a Buddhist temple or Buddhist center in almost in every city today. A small group even. Recently, I went to a small city in New Mexico. They didn't have a temple, but one of the school teachers at his home, in the basement, they do have meditation practice, like they call vipassana, and also they call different things, but they didn't have any statues, but they did have cushions and everything nicely laid, and people come and sit down and relax and talk. So they also practice Buddhist teaching, and whatever they talk also based on the teachings of the Buddha. So there are many places like that. So I would like to invite you to come and visit some of those places and how they practice Buddhism in the United States. Not like here with the huge temples with large statues. I'm going to show you a few samples later. Now, when I talk about these Buddhist teachers, you see all these people, they come over there. I mean, they are locally, most of these people are local, American, and then some of them are European but immigrated, and then they live there. Many Asians also. There are many Asians. We do have once a year like a Dharma teachers conference. So we get together. We don't worry about what kind of tradition you follow or what kind of teaching you do or something. But we all the followers of the Buddha. So we get together and respect each other and then share our experiences. So we do have meetings every year. And then also there are many Americans. They like to learn. This is in Canada. Probably you have seen this. Probably some of you have seen this. I want to emphasize on this because this is a monk and he was trained in Sri Lanka. He's from Bangladesh, but he studied in Sri Lanka. I went to visit his temple. In fact, next week also I'm going to go there. So he is heavily involved in local community. And then he told me that he was invited to the Department of Police in his police station once, and then they talk about a little bit about Buddhism and then practice and this and that. And then eventually they invited a lot of police officers come to the temple and have a retreat at the temple. So see, you can see how much they are interested about Buddhist teaching, because the Buddhist teaching explain or teach them how to be relaxed, how to react. Because these people, as police officers, you know that they have to react. They have to think quickly. They have to react faster. If they do something wrong, that's going to be a disaster. So they have to be very mindful what they say, what they do, because everything is recorded. Not like what we are doing outside on the street. So they have to be well trained. And in Los Angeles also we do have gatherings almost every time. And also Department of Police and in Los Angeles we do have, when there is something, we have conference calls or anything that what do we think about this, what do we do about that. So they always take our close relationship, the advice and then how do we handle social issues. This is something I want to emphasize, that in these few photos, this is something that we've been training in the United States since 1985. The 1985 I started this program. We call the Buddhist ministers, because we didn't have enough Buddhist monks to teach, or the nuns to teach the people. And then we started with local people training, because they understand the language and the culture. So we started training them. Some of them are actually he is from Thailand, from Machula. He used to be a monk before. Now he is in the U.S. Army. He is one of the high-ranking Buddhist chaplains in the U.S. Army. One of the high-ranking, I think that he's the only, or the highest rank that he's having today. And this is another one here. He's the only, again, the Marine Buddhist chaplain. Marine Buddhist chaplain. He works for the U.S. Navy, Army, the Coast Guards, and then many other related things. And so there are many other people that, like, we have trained here to work in the armed forces, in the Air Force, Navy, and everywhere. And also we do work in the prisons. This is not just started. We started about 40 years ago. 40 years ago we started training these people to work in the community in different places. And the interesting story about this is that when we had the first retreat in the prison, that registration, many people registered, many prisoners registered, and then the prison officers got a little scared. So they did not want us to continue with the second one. Because many people are interested in learning Buddhist teaching, because we are not talking about chanting, we are not talking about philosophy, we are talking about that. We just listen to them and then tell them to be quiet and think and responsive, and then ask questions and then contact one-to-one. So we had so many other ordinations now, local ordinations, when we do things like that in Los Angeles. And these things happened about 40 years ago. Now, talking about temples. See, we have large temples in Los Angeles. We have many large temples in Los Angeles, like in Thailand. Like this is one of the temples in downtown Los Angeles. It's a Vietnamese Buddhist temple, because these monks went to to Los Angeles in 1970s, and then one of the monks even started teaching at the University of Southern California, and then he started Venerable Thich Thich Nhat. He started small centers, dharma centers, meditation centers, and also some other Vietnamese monks started in nearby that area in downtown Los Angeles. Now this is another temple. That's a Chinese temple. Chinese temple that we call Silai Temple. Very large compound, and also thousands of people visit and then go there. And this is Wat Thai, Los Angeles. So there are many large temples. I don't want to show you all these things, too many. There are Japanese temples. When you talk about Japanese, we do have Higashi Honganji, Nishi Honganji, and all those large temples all over in Los Angeles. In general, when we talk about that, we do have over 300 Buddhist centers, Buddhist temples in Los Angeles only. But we don't have enough Buddhist monks or nuns. So we do have more temples than the monastics. That is the sad part of the story. And then when we discuss about things, we are not talking about chanting and reading and bowing and up and down, all these things. we talk to them. We want them to talk about their personal issues in front of people or individually. This is a technique that we use to communicate and teach people, teach the Dharma. And then I mentioned to you before, you see, this is an American center, this is a Tibetan-based tradition, but it's an American center, Dharma center. They didn't have large statues or anything. That's why I have these couple of photos to show you, see the difference. When we have a temple here in Asia, like we spend a lot of time and money to build and clean and that, all those things. But in the United States, when especially the Western Dharma masters, when they build a center, they are very simple. Very simple. They try to use the maximum, the space for learning and practice. Very simple. That is part of the Buddhist teaching, they said always. Simplicity is part of the Buddhist teaching, so why we have to make it very complicated? If you make the whole thing, if you make the temple complicated, your life is complicated already, so how can you talk about the Buddhist teaching? Where is the time? So, very interesting. And this again, it's again in the prison. And there's some other meditation sessions. So in these places, that when we talk about vipassana or Zen or whatever, we don't talk about rituals. We don't emphasize a lot of chanting. Maybe chanting for only like what we did here, like 3 minutes or 2 minutes, 3-4 minutes chanting. But we don't emphasize all these things. Another event that in the United States started a few years back is called Change Your Mind Day. You can Google and see all those information. Change Your Mind Day started by Shambhala and then some other Tibetan groups. Very popular. And then thousands of Buddhists get together in somewhere. And one day in the United States, everywhere, in big cities, we got together. Thousands of people get together in Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, Chicago, wherever people can organize on the same day, and then we talk about, they can invite, they don't worry about invite Vajrayana or Theravada or Mahayana or Chinese or Japanese, whoever the masters, they don't care. They get someone to talk and teach and then get together as Buddhists. Then they started bringing their people. They started bringing their friends, the family members, and then most of the time I had some photos, but I could not put it last night together, everything. And then we usually use open space, like a park, so that it's free. Everybody can come together and then walk around and then feel free to sit down or walk around or stand and watch, whatever. So there are many ways that we try to encourage the people come to the learning of Buddhist teaching in a friendly way, rather than, because they always ask, when I go to churches, like they ask me a question, how long have you been here? Okay, I said, well, I've been here in the United States, 30 years, 40 years, actually right now more than 40 years. And then, how many people you have converted? My answer is immediately, we don't convert anybody, but we convince them by giving enough facts and all kind of things, but not convert. Conversion is not part of the Buddhist teaching. We don't want to force people to force into believe in anything that if they don't understand it. And another thing is that in the last one, you can see that the social movements like ecology, animal rights, environment, and peace building, and all these things are very important. Right now in the United States, like in the Harvard University, they started a large group of people called humanists. They call humanism. And humanism. Many students actually came to me to interview and talk about this thing, about humanism, which they don't want to call it Buddhism. But what they talk about actually the Buddhist teaching. Buddhist teaching, Buddhist way of understanding. So again here, like simple things. As I said before, this is another technique that we talk about, drinking tea, eat some simple things, and then I had a program every Wednesday for many years, and then right now we don't have it, called Tea, Relax and Talk. Yeah, I put posters everywhere in universities. Many students, the people, in many, even some executives came to temple every Wednesday in evening. Every Wednesday in the evening we had a tea, relax and talk. When they come, we have some tea to drink and then relax, and then we start talking. So there are many ways that we can teach Dharma in the United States. Now, do you have any questions?
What do you use to make humanism instead of Buddhism?
What's the question again?
Humanism.
Yes.
Yeah. What is your reason to use this one?
Not I use it. There is a group there are many groups under this name. They call humanists or humanism, rather than calling it Buddhism. As I said in the beginning also, some people call, I said, nightstand Buddhist or something. Many people don't want in publicly call them as Buddhist or I'm a Buddhist or something. They don't want to declare that. Because of the family issues, maybe the friends, maybe the workplace and all those things. They quietly practice the teaching. And if they call Buddhist, the humanist, then people don't worry about that as like a religion. So they don't want that religious label. That's why they like to use that term.
If you use like
If we use if we use Buddhism, they will have a discrimination, right?
There's no discrimination. It has a positive and negative effects, depends on where you are. Yeah, but if it is in a family, it's mixed family, sometimes they do have many religions together, and then they don't want to say, oh, I'm a Buddhist and everybody has to follow me or this and that. It's kind of difficult. And also the workplace. They don't want this kind of unnecessary conflicts or anything, misunderstandings. So because of that, they don't want to. Like recently, I went to a mortgage company, it's a banking place, and then I was there sitting, waiting for somebody, and then the lady who worked inside also looking at me and for a long time, and then how come this Buddhist monk in this office? And then he came and talked to me, oh, my grandmother is a Buddhist. She is African American, not Asian. So my grandmother is a Buddhist. Oh, okay, how about you? I'm also following her. So what kind is that? Oh, that's we call SGI, Soka Gakkai. This is a Japanese tradition. Then she showed me the little rosary and things like that. So there are people like that. Last week when I was on the way to Singapore, and one of the chief executives was sitting next to me in the plane. And then I saw him, he is having a rosary, little rosary in his hand. This is American, and I didn't want, when later he asked me, are you a Buddhist monk? Yes. Oh, I like to learn more about Buddhism. He doesn't want to say he is a practicing Buddhist. So there's a lot of things like that. I don't want to go into too much on this.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, any other questions? Something related to that I can say you, like simply add a little bit more on this. You see, sometimes in the United States there are a lot of people call, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. Remember this. I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. Because of that, every year in May, we have a conference in Los Angeles called Spirituality and Mindfulness, or Mental Well-Being, or Mental Health. spirituality and well-being, spirituality and mental health, like that. Every year is the annual conference in Los Angeles. Question? I know you have a question.
Thank you, Professor. You want to say very short Buddhist temple in America. Now I want to know the problem of the temple, Buddhist temple in America. You already said that the benefits of Buddhist temple in America. Now I didn't see problem, challenge of America Buddhist temple.
Okay, you want to know the challenges and problems that we are facing in the United States? Well, that's another subject. That's another subject to talk about, can talk forever. I mean, we do have challenges, we do have, I don't want to call problems, we call issues. They are not problems, we still are not problems, they are issues. We don't have enough good trained Dharma teachers. Number one. And then there is so much demand for Buddhist teaching all over the United States in many different places. Even large corporations always invite some masters. Churches want Buddhist teachers to go and talk in the churches, talk about meditation. So we need all kind of people. I'm talking about well-trained Buddhist teachers or the Dharma teachers to challenge those places. It's not like here in Asia. We cannot do that kind of work with that kind of training. Because we have to understand their religious background, the culture, the mentality, and all kind of things before we talk to them and face them. Yeah, because we don't want to offend whatever they believe, their faith system that they have, but we still have to defend ourselves when we say something. We cannot say all kind of stories, and then we have to give enough facts to explain. And that's so we don't have, number one, the teaching, the masters. So number two is that we don't have a very good system to train people that's suitable for the Western countries. Again, something related to that. And the other thing is that we do have many Asian Buddhist centers. They are not working together. We cannot put them together to work or study together or practice together, get together. We do have, as I told you, we do have 70, 80 different kinds of Buddhist groups from all over Asia or local. But we cannot put these people together to study and think about something, the future of Buddhism in America or future of Buddhism in the all over the world. So that's another difficulty that we are facing. And also the way that we teach, also sometimes some groups are totally contradictory to each other. So that's something that we need to come back to learn together, that if we come from the teachings of the Buddha Sakyamuni and these are the teachings, and then let us talk about these things that wherever we go. I always emphasize, like, look at the churches, that even if you go to Catholic Church, when they have a mass, and if you join this church here, and if next week you go somewhere else, you still can join, and you can join all over the world, maybe a different language, but it's still, they talk about almost the same area. But we Buddhists are quite different. That's because of the lineage, the master, their education, their knowledge. A lot of other things depends on that, and also what they emphasize is different. So there are a lot of challenges. Challenges that number one is that we don't have enough people to work together. Yes. Before I go into the question, another thing is that talking about the publications, the Buddhist, we don't really have very good, simple books for young people, for children, for people. Like when you go to church, you can find a lot of people, so and so for the youth, for children, for relationship issues. So whatever different subjects, they have small booklets and pamphlets and related to their teaching, Christian teaching. But we Buddhists do not have those kind of publication and handouts. We do have few here and there, but commonly we cannot accept it. You can publish something, but you cannot put it in another place, another temple. They don't want to use it. So there are things like that. Question.
When research in the West, Buddhism is growing. There's a trend towards the growth of Buddhism, and this has been there's a trend towards growing Buddhism in the West, and this has been surveyed and confirmed by Pew Research that Buddhism is one of the fastest growing religion, especially in USA.
Yeah.
From your worldwide travels, could you please, I'm sure you have made certain observations, and could you please share your thoughts on why is it that, what are the conditions that are ripening in the West that is different from Asia? Because in Asia, the youth are finding it more hip and more, attuned to the trends to convert into other faiths, like, for example, Christianity and Islam. Could you share some thoughts on this? What are the conditions in Asia and the West that are different?
When we talk about this, you see, the cultural differences and also many things, we can talk about this also for a long time. Because Asian culture that emphasize more rituals and then other things that not related to their day-to-day life. And in the Western countries, people come to Buddhist teaching not because somebody said so or somebody pushed them to come or by birth. They learn in the school, they'll read some books, they talk to friends, or somehow they little by little get interested in, and then eventually they come to learn Buddhist teaching. So there is a difference about that. And then you are right that Pew Research and then many other retreats that we conducted, and then we understood that the demand is so high. I can tell you, once we planned a retreat in Stanford University, and over there, then as we were looking for about 100. We did not want to talk about a few hundred people. We thought not many people would come to join this retreat or Buddhist discussion. As soon as we opened it, less than half a day, already 100 got full. Only a few hours' time, all registered. And then they asked more people wanted to come and join in, because they're curious. They want to know what's going on, what is this Buddhism is all about. And then there's all scholarly people and educated people, company executives and all those people. Then they wanted to learn more about Buddhist teaching. So the interest is so high. But on the other hand, we can say is that traditional Buddhism is dying down, even in the United States. When I say traditional Buddhism, is like ethnic Buddhists. Their grandparents, parents may be Buddhist, but their children are not. Their children go to church or they don't go anywhere. And on the other hand, as you have said, here in the Eastern countries, especially the Christianity and including Catholics and all Christian groups are very aggressive in doing a lot of programs here. And then not only aggressive, they also work with the local communities to convince local people to become their followers. So we Buddhists are not involved in that. We are also doing, but not doing enough. So because of that, we are losing our people here in the East and also Asian community in anywhere in the world. You can say, I was in Australia also, I saw that. They said that the Buddhist population is growing like Buddhist 135% when we compare to the yearly annual growth. So there are a lot of local people, when I say Australians, are becoming Buddhist. But our Asians are going away from this tradition. That is because of the lack of understanding, and also the parents don't know how to encourage these young kids or the next generation to learn more about Buddhist teaching. Yes.
You would encourage. Venerable, you would encourage the traditional venerables in Asia to adopt a more illuminating approach when preaching to the young, in terms of encouraging critical thinking, curiosity, and so on, as preached by Buddha in Kalama Sutta. There is sometimes I encounter a tendency for monastics in Asia, well, not all across, but some, to talk down to lay people and to tell them to shut up by saying, don't think too much. So instead of encouraging and listening more, what are your thoughts on this? Would monastics, you think, in Asia need to adapt some of their traditional ways to suit the times of today?
Well, to make this short, give you a short answer about this, yes. I can say yes, but again, we can keep our traditional things to a certain extent, but we cannot emphasize a whole lot of things, traditional things, to the next generation. All the people grew up in different conditions, like people grew up in the Western countries, and then they grew up with the Western culture, and then traditions or food, and everything is different. Then we have to learn how to tell them to adapt to the conditions. So we also do have to adapt the condition. That's where the lack of training comes here. Like our Dharma teachers need to be trained in different places. That's why when I do have the program, we emphasize in 4 areas, that self-discipline and the knowledge of the teachings, and also not only teachings, and another area that the comparative religion and the Western philosophy. I mean, it's kind of a whole curriculum. And then other thing is the social issues that we cannot be excluded. Recently, I was invited in a church. It's a Scientology. It's a church, and we to a panel discussion. Whole panel discussion, they wanted to talk about homosexuality. That's the theme. Then there's a Buddhist monk here. Now what we are going to do? I can't say, I'm sorry, I'm going to go home. See, we have to face the challenges. In the United States, that's why our teachers, our Dharma masters, we had to teach them to talk about abortion, euthanasia, all kind of issues that we do have. These are the social things, what we call social issues today that we are facing. Not only talk about peace. Let's talk peace later, but we have to live here first. We have to deal with the day-to-day issues first. We are facing like a suicide. Suicide rate is very high in the United States. If you have the numbers, you can go to Google and you can find a lot of things, a lot of information. We have to talk about that. Even at the Los Angeles airport, they do have advertising about, let us talk about suicide. Let us talk about suicide. Every 5 seconds, 30 seconds, those advertisements, all those slides are coming. This international airport. A lot of things that we have to face. That's what we have to learn more, not just for chanting and do the rituals. So these are the issues, these are the things that we face. And also when I go to churches to speak, we have to know about their religion. Otherwise, it's a big problem to face them because they are going to challenge us. Yes. So it's not easy. So we need a lot of training. But I hope one day, before I finish this talk, I would like to emphasize that here in this IBSC, someday can start a program to train the Buddhist chaplains, Dharma teachers, to serve in the world, anywhere, wherever they go. Language skills, and then cultural, everything. including their religious backgrounds, whatever, they can train here. This is a very good place. We do have the facilities, we do have the masters and the people, and then a lot of students here would like to learn probably. So I think this is a good opportunity and a place to use for us to train good Dharma masters. And then Thailand, we can do that. Anything else? And then I know we have a lot of questions. What time is now? 10:30. Okay, we have another 30 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah. There are many sects. I mean Buddhist sects in America. They have been practicing Buddhist teachings to not only Buddhist people, also many other religious people. So did you ever face that non-religious people, they are confused with many different teaching methods? I mean to say there are many traditional teaching method has been applying to them. What do you think? Did you ever face?
Yes. In the past, yes, we did have like that. Like 30 years ago, 40 years ago, yes, it was confused. And then for some people, especially the immigration officers or the police officers or some, those people, when they see a Buddhist, they don't know, a Buddhist monk, we are in different ways. Some of them are green, some of them whatever. Some of them have all different colored robes and different shapes and things like that. There was a time that actually I had a meeting with some of the officers and explained all those Buddhist monks monks or nuns come from different parts of the world, and then we all are in the same family like that. So now there is no confusion. No, last 30 years we didn't have, because when we have an event, we started joint Vesak celebration. In Los Angeles, we invited Koreans, Japanese, Vietnamese. They do that Vietnamese chanting, Korean chanting, and Japanese chanting, Pali chanting, everything we do together. And then the audience can see, oh, they all talk in different language, but they're all Buddhist. So we did a lot of things to educate people. That's one way. And also when we did that joint Vesak celebration, there is a significant thing again. We didn't do in one place like every time. This time we do it, for example, if this year we do it in Wat Thai, next year we go to a Korean temple, and then following year maybe we go to a Japanese temple, and things like that. So that way we can educate their members. Otherwise, if you ask those Korean people to come to a Thai temple, only few people will come. But if we do it in a Korean temple, most of the people who goes to that temple and more people, they come to see that. So then they get recognized, doesn't matter what kind of a cloth they wear, they're still monastics. So things like there's no confusion today. But we have a confusion. We have one confusion because we do have some fake ones. We do have, that's the issue in Los Angeles or all over the United States now. There are some monks and nuns. They represent as monks and nuns, but they are not. They shave heads, and then they have carrying bowls sometimes, and also wearing sometimes traditional Thai style, traditional Korean style, traditional Vietnamese style, different style, time to time. Like today they wear Korean style, tomorrow they wear Thai style, like that. We do have issues like that. We are facing those things. Yes, questions next.
Good morning, Most Venerable. Because of developing of technology, so what kind of teaching you prefer to teenagers, and what kind of problems you face with the teenagers? Because most of teenagers, they are very attached to technology. So I want to know your opinion about it.
Yeah, we talk about addiction. This is we talk about addiction. Yes, we do talk about that, but it's very difficult today. It's already gone too far. We should have done that actually 10, 15 years ago when we started. Right now, most of the people are so addicted to that, and it's a very difficult situation. It's like addicted to anything else. We call it actually addiction. It's like a disease today. So technology is not a bad thing to use like what we are doing here, but then we don't have enough education about using it properly, or there's no control about it, and people have no control themselves, and these things control us, so that we fool around with this all the time and waste our time and energy. That's how it goes the other way around. So that we can do some work, but it's very difficult today. Like in Singapore, I don't know if you have seen that, they have started some clinics. They started, this is a disease like, not people, then they have problem, it's addiction about this, all these electronical gadgets, and then, it's addiction. Then they have to go for treatment. So it's gone that far now. So I think we ourselves have to be, as Dharma teachers or the masters or whoever, we need to pay more attention about these things are coming up. But we have no control about this. We only can talk about this a little bit here and there. We cannot emphasize a lot. Yeah, because it's not that only we can do it. The parents, school teachers, and then everybody, and also they themselves must have a better understanding. Why do they do it? Why don't they do it? Because I have seen kids like 3 years old, 5 years old, and then they started playing with all these tablets, and for hours and hours. Parents could not stop that. Yes, any other questions, please?
Thank you, Professor. It's very perfect presentation. I'm from China, so I have two questions. The first question is about if we look about Western country and Eastern country, will be know mostly Eastern country they have a more longer history, right? Same as China is around 5,000 years history, but if we look about the world history around 200 years, and we will be know same as Western country culture is very powerful. It's more powerful than Eastern country, especially the modern social system or political or science, technology, everything. The new things is from Western country. So my first question is, what you think the science or the model system for today human is from Europe? No, is from Christian. Why the model system is not come from more longer history, more as a Buddhism, as a Eastern culture? Why is
Okay, your question is
Western
like,
culture?
even though that in Western countries have a short history of Buddhism or whatever, and why they are getting more interested? Because of the healthy, just simply healthy attitude. Healthy attitude. When we emphasize that, we can talk about, we Buddhists not talking about the past life a lot or next life over there. Over there we talk about day-to-day issues. Like people come to our classes and then sometimes raise the question, how do I get home without getting angry? After work they come to the temple, relax for a while and ask the question, how can I go home without getting angry? I mean, small things like that. And then the other thing is like, we don't emphasize about the creator, the scene, the faith and traditions and chanting and all those things. We talk about ethical values. Ethical values, what is right, and also talk about responsibility. So those things make sense. And then, as I said a few days ago in Singapore, you see, United Nations and all those countries are still talking about the human rights. Still trying to study what is human rights, how to define it. But we, Buddhists, 2,500 years ago, already talk about all these humans and animals and all the rights. So we don't have to spend a lot of time to explain those things to the people who come to our classes, or the people who want to become Buddhists. Like some people who were not even, actually some of them came, two members, remember, I came to our classes, they were Franciscan monks. Franciscan means that's a Christian, mean the background. But after coming for a few months, they became practicing Buddhist, and then one of them even became a monk. So then the reporter asked him why. He said, well, it makes sense. Very simple answer. No, he doesn't want to continue with that. He just said it makes sense. So simple things like that. And also we talk about the cause and effect. Right now in many small children's classes, like in the United States, schools books, they have children books talking not published by Buddhist temples. It's just like textbooks. They use they don't talk about the cause and effect or karma, but then actually that's what they're talking about. My father did not water the plants, so they are dead. So we can see the cause and effect right there. Because my father did not do the work right, did not do this right. So what we have, this is the result. Then we don't have to be simple language we use to educate the children and then adults and everywhere. And there are many other things. And also when it comes to the mental training, you train yourself. You don't have to depend on others. So there are many other ingredients on this when we want to talk about why Westerners are coming to the Buddhist teaching. It's not because of the faith. It's not because that Buddha is a great master. It's not because that the monks they know how to do chanting for 5 hours or all night. They come to the teaching, they learn more, they want to learn more, and they want to be responsible people and then live in peace. Because they do have everything. Material things they have more than enough. Why do they come to learn more? Something that we all talk about, don't have this, you don't need this, you have to be simple and this and that. Because of the teaching, simple teaching. Yeah, it's nothing else.
Okay, thanks so much. And I have a second question is about if we look today, especially after Second World War, American is a superpower country in the world, and today is only one superpower in the world. All of American make all of rules for the world, and the rules mostly we think is from Christians, same as some about international law, same as UN system. So what do you think in the future Buddhism have any possible to build some all of a country or all of human? It's different between Christian.
If we can get together, we can do it. That's a simple answer. Yeah, because there is a joke like in the United States we call 2 Jews, 3 opinions. Buddhists are also like that. You can call 5 Buddhists 10 opinions. 10 different ways of practice, and then my mother is the best. So that this kind of attitude need to be changed, because the teaching wise we think we have the best teaching, we have the best masters, we have the best the original teaching, we do have this and that. I mean, there are a lot of things we need to leave alone first, and then we have to sit together and discuss. This is something else need to be done. We have the teaching, we know how to present it right. We are not doing our real work actually. It's kind of feeling like guilty ourselves, but that is the reality. We as Buddhists for the last thousands of years, we have been not doing the work that I can tell you If you just watch few programs on TV, there are many other books published by bestsellers in the United States, very popular. Millions of people watch those programs. They don't use the word of the Buddha or Buddhism, but they talk mostly Buddhist teaching about it, and then they use the Buddhist teaching and write those books and become bestsellers. They make millions of dollars. Millions of people read that. Many people watch those programs on TV, weekly programs. Why? They know how to present it. They know how to use the words and things like that. But we are not doing our work. So this is the reality. And we can do it, but first thing we have to learn how to get together. Yes, questions on anything here? We still have a few more minutes. Maybe one more question.
Thank you. Most Venerable Sir, may I ask the question that like today I observe young monk like me or others classmates, we learn going abroad, study, far away from our parents, no relative, friend, beloved ones. We isolated ourselves, but we're not inspired enough with the great master to practice the Buddha teaching. On the other hand, we have no bright future to think that we go to propagate the Buddha teaching. We are not trained in our mind to do such Bodhisattva practice. So according to you, as the one who traveling in from tradition, traveling, but you were in the Mahayana tradition, I think so. Then you already also experienced such kind of learning process like us today. So very much in my heart want to know your advice for us as a student. On the past you already experienced, gave us the inspiration how to get ready and to prolong and non-thoughts for whole life. Thank you, Most Venerable.
Well, first of all, tradition, Theravada or Mahayana or anything. I do change clothes accordingly wherever I feel comfortable. Number one. Number two, when we come to the teaching, I don't talk about Theravada or Mahayana or Vipassana or Zen or Japanese teaching. I use everything wherever and I can use. Going back to the things like, you don't have to look for great masters. Doesn't matter. Buddha is a great master. I mean, even if you sit with him, you may not learn anything if you don't make enough effort. And also, we should have enough patience. I mean, we should have patience, the conditions, to learn more about it. There are many Buddhist masters around the world today. Every day, they were in the past also. But also, again, the problem is we have to understand what I really want to learn myself and which direction I want to go. Because if you really want to talk about meditation practices, then just focus on that area and then learn, and then you can do some research first and then find a suitable master or the teaching with that. And even if you want to learn from chanting, and then there are a lot of chanting and they're very scholarly, nice chanting, and then a lot of in Pali or Chinese or whatever the language, they can do it. So there are teachers, there are masters, and there are very good books. Yeah. So it all depends again ourselves. We didn't have also, for example, myself, we didn't have someone to do this, do that, and then tell us to do this. No, we ourselves, myself, went around the world and then learn the languages and then learn other cultures and then learn more about other practices, compared, and then I can put together. So it's not difficult, but need also. Today with the young people, especially this younger generation, I'm sorry to say that, sometimes some young monks or just ordained or just a few years, they want to do a lot of things. They have huge plans. Doesn't work in life like that. Yeah. They want to finish the education in 3 years, 5 years, and then maybe have a large group of people or build a large temple or all talk about the world peace. I mean, it doesn't work in reality like that. In Buddhist teaching, we are talking about conditions. When you have the conditions, you can do it. Yeah. 我们都是讲缘分呢，有缘才可以做。所以呢 we have to have conditions. Without conditions, your efforts are useless sometimes. That's why we have to have patience, we have to have the correct place, the teacher, and then material, good health, good way of thinking, things like that. Like when I came to Hong Kong, without going to school, I had to work in a temple for more than 3 years. After 3 years, they allowed me to go to school. When I went to Los Angeles, the same. I did not start a school over there first. I started working in a temple for many, many years. Fix the temple, do all the work, and then it's done. Then we started education in the United States. Things like that. We cannot push ourselves. We have to prepare our own conditions, the living conditions, and other things that we can. So it's a lot of things to talk about this. And yeah, I know you have a question. You have a question? Yeah?
So I would like to know the strategy for publication such as The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. Have you heard about that? The bestseller of the world. This textbook, The Secret.
No.
Yeah. This is, I think, very popular throughout the world. Why don't, as a Buddhist, why don't we do like a publication like this? It would be good.
There are many publications. As I said, as I emphasized before, those publications are not going to be accepted by other groups. As Buddhists, these are the things that we have facing today.
And do we have a strategy to implement?
Strategy is we have to learn, sit together and talk first. Sit together and develop some understanding first.
So we are in the first step, right?
We are too far from the first step. Even, I don't think we get together time to time for celebrations. But do we really talk about our own issues?
Good morning, Bhante. So I have experience to go to United States like 5 or 6 years ago to teach about Buddhism. Went to Washington DC and Seattle, and I have witnessed that so many American people try to suicide, like you say, like they depressed or so on and so forth. So after we teach Buddhism, they decide to continue their class by going back to Thailand and taking class in Thailand and ordain in Thailand as well. And we also have like sustainable program like doing online. So I'm not sure you're talking about the limited Buddhist teacher in United States, right?
Yes.
Like not so many monks or nuns, or we can adopt the program like online, like what I do now. Like I have like 6,000 members doing online worldwide, nationwide in Thailand and also around the world as well. So maybe because you are a very good teacher, right? You can teach and you can have like two-way communication with 50 states nationwide in USA, and you can do online and so on.
Online programs are not bad, but they are good. On the other hand, that's for theoretical understanding. That's fine. But especially when we talk about the teaching to the people, we do have to have some contact with the people, and that's experience. So in the problem with this, what I see, like many other churches are doing also online teaching. Online teaching. Churches are training a lot of people around the world with online satellites, what do you call those online teaching. We Buddhists can do it. But the problem is we have to have these students over there to see the Western culture and live with it, then to see and experience it.
Yes, and we also have like two-way communication. Like we have like two, how can I say, two branch, and have online system, and we manage together and so on. But just an idea.
It's a good idea. I'll tell you one incident. You may laugh at this. You know, that's why they need to, theoretically, philosophically, we can talk about this. Once I was invited to speak in a college, and then when we had a visiting monk from Sri Lanka, then I thought, well, it's a good opportunity for him to go and talk in this class. So I went with him, and then as soon as walk into the classroom, the teacher is the female, the lady. She came and then she wanted to shake hand with the monk. The monk was like this. Then I was really embarrassing for me, because we walk together, we sit together, we shake hand, we do, we eat together. In the United States, we don't have a problem. But for him, it's like a shocking to see that. And then for the teacher, it's an American, also get into that, because he didn't have the experience in that culture how they respect to people. It's kind of disrespectful when somebody want to shake your hand, you just back up yourself. So there's one incident. There are many other cases like that. Like when we walk into a church, the priest, the father, they want to hug you. As Buddhist monks, we don't do that. But in Western countries, that's how we become friendly and then sit together and work together. So those things we cannot teach with slides or things. You have to be there to learn the local culture and the practice, and then change your attitude by doing it or by looking at it. Those things have to be trained. Theoretical part, yes, we can do, but the practice is different.
And also another question, Bhante. Just short question. When I saw the YouTube recently, like I saw the movie star like Tina Turner.
Mm-hmm.
They just making the concert, like have Puttang Saranang Kachami. So they have like a faith to a lot of people here. And you also talking about the Los Angeles, where is a lot of movie star over there.
Yes,
so
yes.
what is the situation, like how to you can approach the role model like movie star and can make like Buddhist?
No, we cannot.
Spread
Sorry
out.
to stop. And we cannot, when we invite those people, don't come to our places. When Dalai Lama come to Los Angeles, they come out, and like Richard Gere and all those famous movie stars, they always with them. But they don't come out to a small or some traditional Buddhist temple for even to speak. They don't get involved in any of those. Like even Tiger Woods, it's a Thai, that we tried to invite him a few times and then didn't work. So they have their way of participating in things, and then it's difficult. But there are many Americans. Born Americans, then they like to come out and talk and then participate in our events. So we can get influence, they can influence the others by talking about Buddhist teaching. But ourselves, as I repeating again and again, we are not united, we are not working together. This is the main issue that I see today. It's not the teaching. Maybe do a lot of chanting and then pray.
So, if we study do case study for a particular religion or particular culture, then we can tailor-made for the strategic for teaching in particular zone. I think it will be possible.
Yes, strategies, yes, we can make some strategies and also can implement them. It's not that difficult, but it's all again, you have to start working on this process for a while and then it is possible. We do have the resources. But we just have to put them together. So it is possible. Like in the United States, we always, yes, you can. Yes, we can. We can do it. But if you want to start? I think it's time to stop or... So thank you very much again, and then listening and then sharing all these things. And later in the afternoon, and also if you have more questions, and then continue on this again, we can continue with our Most Venerable Dhammaratana here, and also I am here also. We will see what we can learn together. Okay, thank you so much. Finish.